Well, speaking of things that are everywhere, Microsoft has been talking about and demoing this feature that is everywhere, all over your computer. It's called Recall. And it's an AI-based feature, I would say, where basically,
Sort of.
this is an oversimplification, but what it's basically doing is watching everything you're doing on your computer so that anytime you want to ask the AI about something that you've done previously, it has that context and can tell you. So you could go, what was that movie I was looking up yesterday? And then it can just, oh, I remember. I took a screenshot every 5 seconds for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I remember exactly what you're talking about. And it can tell you. And this goes back to my theory about AIs, which are it has to know a ton about you to be helpful. And so here is an exact representation of that trade-off. This is probably a very helpful feature, but it knows everything you do on your computer, and it's up to Microsoft to protect that information somehow, and naturally all the articles about how it can potentially be exploited.
Can I bring up a tweet I had about this that had a lot of, I don't want to say backlash, I think it was like all super, super reasonable responses to it that I agree with all of them. But I just said, like, I see why people hate this. It feels creepy, but I think it's awesome and could be useful. And then I also said I don't get why it's not opt-in. Defaulting it is really weird. And like, I still think there is some kind of interesting things about this. It feels almost like a fear-mongering tactic of like, if you don't have this enabled, what if you get to that point where you realize it could have been useful? And then you're like, I wish I had that enabled, and then you enable it. But I do agree with everything that's been said, which is, one, Microsoft claims they're not scraping data from it, but like, why should we believe a $1 trillion company that is telling you they're not going to make money off of something that could make them money? Always be skeptical of that. It does seem like it's just watching you all the time. That's weird. You can disable some things so it's not looking in like certain apps and stuff. And then also, I don't get why it's opt out. And not only is it opt out, it like pops up in a screen when you're setting up the new thing and says what it's doing, but there's no slider to agree there.
You have to
go into the settings after you finish the setup and actually opt out of it.
Yeah.
Which all feels really sketchy.
Let me play devil's advocate. It's an opt-out feature that knows everything that's on your device, but is an assistant that can help you. So is Siri. So is Google Assistant. So is Alexa.
None of those are taking screenshots of your bank information.
So I think the way they describe it of taking screenshots makes it feel worse.
100%.
But how does Siri not have all of the same downsides? Siri plugs into your contacts, knows all of your contacts. It's not screenshots, but it knows all of your contacts. It knows everything about all the things you've ever asked Siri to do, all of the queries you've ever had. And it's all encrypted and on device and shouldn't ever be sold to any advertisers.
It still doesn't know screenshots of my bank account. And other like, right? Is that, I think the main thing is that these are physical screenshots of things you do on your computer.
My bigger concern is that this is Microsoft, which traditionally has made all of its money from businesses and like getting fleets of computers to businesses. Yeah. And what happens when your employer is like, you cannot turn this off and I have access to everything that you've ever looked at on your computer? So your employer just has like unfettered access to your computer.
It's like one of those things where you're like, I don't want you to see everything. But then it like, obviously everybody at some point during their workday is doing something not work related. And that's just what happens in real life. But like you feel
you can't like remotely.
What? I'm ordering Taco Bell right now on this podcast.
Theoretically shouldn't be able to like remotely access it, but I did read that if you have admin access, you can look at any users.
We're going to talk about that soon.
Stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so what's that? So what I understand Microsoft to be saying is, oh yeah, this is all private. Like, yes, it is using screenshots to remember everything, but it's not storing them in some way that could be stolen somehow. It's supposed to encrypt them, and then no one can ever use these screenshots other than this feature. That's how I understand it to be explained. But
supposed to is doing
what I hear
a lot
is
of heavy lifting.
Yeah, what I hear is it's not exactly.
I feel like a lot of people are getting nervous about this too because everyone understands screenshots. If you tell someone that using an Android phone, like Google is keeping your data and they're tracking you and they like have all these complicated algorithms that know where you're going.
Algorithms.
People are like abstractly aware that Google's tracking them, but these are like physical screenshots.
Right.
So that's what everyone's like, wait, I know what that is. That's weird.
Yeah.
I think that's
it's like if Microsoft was a person, they would just be over your shoulder at all times, looking at every single thing you do. And that's just like feels really creepy.
Every 5 seconds.
But so there was somebody who's a cybersecurity expert who was looking into more how recall works, and what he found is that even though it's encrypted, if you're an admin on the computer, there's a local folder called app data, and all of them, everything's just listed there in plain text. So like if you were an admin on a computer, even though it's encrypted from outside, if you are in that position on the computer as the user physically, or I'm assuming even remote, if you're controlling the computer remotely and it thinks it's locally, you can just have access to those screenshots. And even though you can say like, don't take screenshots of, you can select different programs that you want it to. So like, let's say you disable Chrome. Anytime Chrome is open, it will take the screenshots, but it's not going to show anything that's in Chrome. But if you don't, it can't tell the difference between what is like a password field or sensitive information field.
Right.
So if you do have show password on, or your bank information or Venmo or PayPal or anything that has to do with your finances, all of that stuff is now stored in a folder that is accessible as an admin.
Yeah, I've just been reading this article.
Which seems insane, right?
It seems incredibly poorly thought out.
It's extremely poorly.
Because I was like, is it a plain text? Like, what is a plain text of a screenshot? Is it like a hash? And then you still can't get the information from it, but it seems like it's literally all of the most useful information is
because the way that this feature works is it takes the screenshot and then the AI like interprets the text on the screenshot and the images on the screenshot, so that when you ask for things contextually, it can pull up the right one that exhibits those features.
Which, like, in theory, this all is cool with, as long as it's like
20 asterisks.
Yeah, it's like at the core, this is kind of a cool idea, but there are just so many flaws and like creepy and potential security risks associated with it that it's really hard.
I just, as an employee, would be absolutely terrified.
Even at home, like I would be pretty worried about this.
Yeah.
It's just like if somebody does get into your account, you're kind of just screwed.
You're cooked.
You're cooked.
My other
Get cooked, bro.
My other devil's advocate was going to be, if someone gets so far into your computer that they've logged into the admin into your account, like you're already screwed beyond anything that this could do.
Any employer has the admin access.
Yeah, that any employer has an admin access, and also it could potentially just literally have passwords in plain text. That's what it sounds like. It could just have passwords in plain text, which would be pretty bad.
Yeah, it would have to be in the situation where like you type in a password and it has show. Yeah, and then it takes a screenshot at that time. But if it's taking a screenshot every 5 seconds, that's something that could happen.
Every 5 seconds if the screen is different.
Oh, if the screen is different?
Yeah.
Fair.
It's super plausible that passwords could be listed in there pretty easily, especially with how often you have to change them now. When I'm double entering passwords in, to confirm, I usually have show open just because I'm typing the 18th iteration of the same password I've had ever, and I need to make sure it's actually
Or you click the little eye thing to see if you typed it correctly before you hit enter.
Yeah, and there are hackers and stuff that will like Trojan horse your computer or whatever, and then like just wait for you to input this information and like have that access already and steal your information.
Yeah.
But this way, they don't even need to do that.
Yeah, so
they don't have to wait.
I feel like you're devil's advocate of like you're already screwed when you get that far into it. It's like, now it's just easier because maybe before they get into it and then it's like, well, now we have to wait. Now it's like we get into it and I just have it all and I don't even need to wait anymore. It's just mine.
Wow.
It all feels rough, and I think I'll take back I think this feature is cool.
Well, I think the idea is cool.
I think the idea is cool, and I don't think there's a company out there that I would trust doing
I also just don't know, like from a very theoretical high level perspective, it seems like a cool idea, but I can't actually trace back to a time when I would have used this.
And now that it's out there, I bet you'll find a time at some point within the next year where you're like, that may have been helpful.
Maybe, but I guess worth it?
We talk all the time about like potential, like what if the humane device was recording things and you could be like, oh, what was... like recall
thing.
Back. It's like a helpful memory of something. Like this is it on your computer, and we spend a lot of time on computers.
Like the rewind pendant that is on your...
Pretty much.
That was an idea. That's why I keep saying the idea is cool, but the execution is so hard.
Yeah.
I still love the idea of an assistant that knows everything about you and can do whatever, but we keep asking these assistants to get better with context. Like even remember the early days of Google Assistant, we'd want to just say a question and it knows the context of the previous question.
Yeah.
Or I'd say, who's the coach of the Denver Nuggets? And then I'll go, how tall is he? And it remembers the previous question. It's just all about having good context. And we want to give it as much good context as possible so it can actually answer. But the more context you try to give it, the more data, the more information it has to know about you and what you're doing and what you've been asking and what you've been trying to do. And that's why some of the ones,
smarts, but also a lot of data.
yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It's really hard to think. Like Microsoft says they're not going to scrape any of this data, but as a company that's focusing so much on AI, how useful would it be to have screenshots every 5 seconds of everybody that
I was
uses your
going to say,
computers?
companies say things all the time, and then they end up having done the thing that they said they weren't going to do
Yeah.
all the time.
That one's just
All the time.
yeah.
I think best case scenario is they don't scrape anything right now, and then they change their priorities on it and say, we are going to scrape on it.
My tinfoil hat is that they ran out of things to scrape, and this just gives them a bucket of more stuff to scrape for a bigger LLM.
Is this feature out yet?
Yes.
Like it's officially out? The recall?
I don't think it's
I have it
officially
on
out yet. I think there's some test versions
I have it
out,
on
or
that
like
Asus.
beta versions.
Yeah, but
Computer
that
that I
computer's
have.
not out yet either.
Yeah, true.
That's wild.
Yeah, so...
It comes out on June 18th, apparently.
Do you
Also,
think they'll
Microsoft.
restructure how they do this by
No.
then?
No.
This is it?
I think they
Because
just
like,
go
what if
full
it's
sail ahead.
encrypted for real? And like every time you want to use this feature, you have to like decrypt it.
How about this?
Would that make it less creepy?
Name the one thing that this could do that would make you trust Microsoft doing this.
Well,
What could Microsoft say that makes you trust them?
Cancel it.
I think what he's saying would.
Like I have my own decryption,
Yeah, you're-
passcode.
add an extra layer of friction for me to decrypt.
Yeah, it can't be stored in plain text. It has to be stored in an encrypted way that is only unencryptable by some additional steps. So it's not actually viewable by anyone, and it's not ever uploaded anywhere, and it's useful still.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way to make this work.
I guess even in that sense, though, do you still trust that Microsoft, being the person who is doing the encryption aspect of it, do you trust them to not be?
I mean,
honestly,
as long as it's
getting
not
there?
some weird encryption algorithm that it's proprietary to their thing. Like if they use a regular encryption algorithm, that's pretty
I don't
standard.
know about encryption, but I would just assume that if Microsoft is selling me something, they can have access to it.
Yeah.
If they want to. I'm not saying they're going to.
Because
but
it's Microsoft?
The skepticism has to be there.
Or
Any
because any big company?
trillion-dollar company.
Because Apple does the same exact thing.
Oh yeah.
So you don't trust that Apple's...
So does Google.
I mean, most of them is like I've just taken the account of like I don't trust them, but I like the feature they're doing, so I'm okay with that. This just seems like the step further of like information.
I would
that
say that
probably
I
don't want.
especially don't trust Microsoft. They are like business, money, business, money. And Apple is money, but they are from you. We're going to make the money from you, not business.
I think what I read from that is how bad of a PR disaster would it be if they got caught scraping, and it wouldn't be as bad for Microsoft as it would for other more consumer-facing companies.
I think it's not as bad for Microsoft because people expect them to be doing it already.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
no
like
one's
if you-
surprised.
If it's
Like-
a person who buys a Windows laptop and it's like, oh, well, Microsoft is very, very business focused. They're not losing business customers because
Yeah.
I feel like it still would though.
They wouldn't use. I don't think they'd lose business customers because the business
They might gain some business customers.
Yeah, I was gonna say the businesses want more unfettered access to that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
that might be true.
But I think you're right that like if it was a more personal computing company like Apple, which makes
Yeah.
almost all of its money off the consumers, that would be a PR disaster for them.
Yeah, Apple gets caught selling your information from your iPhone.
That
It's like
would
a
be
very different,
crazy.
headline.
If they would sell like your searches to like some other $1 trillion search company, like that would be crazy.
That'd be
It would be
great.
crazy, and
Imagine that.
Secretly, it would be crazy, but it's
Yeah.
Google.
Yeah. Adam, though, I think that was a pretty salient point about the fact that it is literally screenshots. That's something people can understand. If they were not showing the physical screenshots and they were taking them behind the scenes, but like not showing them, just scraping them and then deleting them automatically and just saying like, we're taking the context off of your computer so you can just search things. I don't think people would be freaking out as much as the idea that it's literally a screenshot that you can like view. Even though it's the same thing.
Seems too easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have explained it a different way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should have just not
They should never
explained
use the
it.
word
They should have
screenshot.
just said
Well, 'cause you can
AI is
see-
doing it
but
all.
You can see the screenshots when you
We're
hit the
using
Copilot button.
semantic computer vision to reconstruct previous iterations of your activity
Pixel by pixel.
to understand how to help you in the future.
hire Marques
That's
for your
just
PR.
taking
That's-
a screenshot.
Fantastic.
And tech nerds would have found that out and made articles anyway, but it would have made less headlines than
Yeah.
Microsoft going, yeah, we're taking screenshots every 5 seconds of what you're doing.
It is funny that like all these features that we have been saying for literally decades that would be really amazing to have that are in all these sci-fi movies and all this kind of stuff. Now that we're actually starting to come to terms with them existing, we're realizing how terrifying they all are.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Her?
You haven't. Freaking watch that movie.
I did watch Dune.
I
last
know.
night.
I was like,
You didn't watch Dune last night. You sent me a picture of you not watching Dune.
No, I sent you a picture of me turning on the 1984 version of Dune. Wow. Just up until the title card. And then one other weird floating guy.
So you
literally
didn't.
I didn't.
Why did
Yeah.
You could have.
It was
watched
funny.
Her.
you could have watched Her?
didn't watch
Why are you
anything.
guys boycotting this movie right now?
I'm not boycotting it. I have a 6-month-old. It's hard to watch movies.
I
She'll
simply
love
do
it.
not have the time. Someday.
Anyway,
We got a
I
lot
feel
of
like
flights coming up.
I feel like Recall is like the computer version of Google Photos search. Like, what is my license plate? Google's doing this in photos, and everyone's fine.
But I'm taking the photos in Google.
That's a huge.
Yeah, Microsoft is taking the photos on this.
Yeah.
Imagine
That's the difference.
if Google Photos
take
was always taking a shot of whatever my camera was seeing every 5 seconds, I would not trust that anymore.
That was the thing.
Google.
That was like the pendant feature or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Read the recall pendant.
Well, I was
That's
gonna-
because no one believed that was ever
You were-
going to work.
Were you going to bring up the new project?
No,
that
it's
they
doing
were
with the,
doing?
the Maps feature that you can just open Google Maps and see every single place you've ever been and for
yeah.
how long.
Yeah. I find that awesome.
location data.
I'm more okay with just
Maybe that
like
was me already.
my pin being so like I guess I shouldn't say okay, but I know it's happening. There's just something more about like seeing what I'm doing. Every
Oh, I
5
agree.
seconds.
No,
Yeah.
I agree.
Look at my screen.
Yeah, it feels like Google knowing that much about where I've been is equally creepy, but somehow it's less creepy than like screenshots of my screen all the time.
Yeah.
Like if my Android phone was like, not only do I know that you were in this city, but here's what you were doing on your phone at that moment, I'd
No,
be
'cause
more weirded out.
It's always the things that are like not at the forefront of your screen that are the most damaging. Like I don't know if you've ever been like making a video and you need to like screen record your browser, and when you open Safari it'll be like 16 pages that it thinks you might want to go to, and one of them is like, ooh,
Yeah.
One of them is you leaving a bad review on Dune the movie, and you don't want anyone to know that.
So hey, thanks for watching this clip. Wait, before you go. This is actually an unskippable clips outro.
Yeah.
So you can't skip to the end. So we'll make it pretty short, but
Yeah.
just wanted to say, make sure you subscribe and watch other relevant videos.
Yeah, generally there is a skip button in the bottom right corner, and generally the retention of a video when you start to say, okay, so that's it. Just
That's when it plummets.
Plummets.
But you're not leaving. You're not
changed
leaving
the code.
because this one is unskippable.
yeah, we changed the code.
Yeah.
You can't actually even move the playhead anymore. You just have to suffer through it with us.
Yeah. Should we let them go now?
No.
A couple more seconds? It's unskippable. They can't do anything. They can't leave.
True. What can we do to like make them like and subscribe?
Just want to make sure they've hit the subscribe button. I'm just like looking through their computer real quick just to make sure.
Oh, sorry. At 12:47 p.m. you were. Why were you looking at that?
Are you looking through the screenshots?
Yeah. I mean, they're stored in plain text. So,
Bro, get out of their screenshots, man. That's a little invasive.
I mean, I am their administrator.
Marques, Microsoft said it was okay, so
Oh.
you know.
All right. Well, as long as they subscribe, we're good.
Mom said it was okay.
Cool. Thanks, Mom. Bye.
Bye.